This is going to be a guide for how you can win from behind when you're playing Pokemon Unite. Best solution to mitigate this issue before it becomes a problem is to not get behind. Now let's talk through how we can do that. Use a Pokemon that's strong in the lane early, don't overextend for farm, don't die for farm, and don't die for stacks. If it means that you're going to die, just back out and let the enemy score and get farm. You need to minimize the harm when things are not going well. Okay, but now you're behind, for whatever reason. You played bad, your team sucks, the enemy jungle is Suluwu, whatever it is, you need to get your priorities straight. This is where everything goes wrong. Now, with all this being said, I'm going to assume that Mewtwo isn't a broken Pokemon, and I'm assuming that this issue will be addressed. However, you can still apply these principles against Mewtwo, it's just going to be a lot more challenging to execute. So firstly, you need to catch up, but you need the resources to catch up. That is, you need a Unite move, and you need to catch the enemy lacking for some catch-up experience. If the enemy lets you farm and you get your Unite move, you will likely naturally get back into the game. Remember this because that is important. You need to understand how the enemy is going to play when you're in this behind position. That is, they don't want you to get all of your farm for free. So, don't let them take your farm. If there's farm on the map while there's an objective active, you should be at the farm. You should be farming. If you're already losing, stop compounding the loss for a miracle. If you go to the objective and there's farm up, one of two things is going to happen. You get the objective by fat chance, and your team gets a good spike of experience. Good job, this is the dream. However, this is probably not going to happen very often. What normally happens is, you go to the objective, they kill you, they take the objective, and now while you're respawning, you're out of position, they take your farm. So think of the trade-off here. You can either farm and let them have an objective, and you get closer to your Unite move. Or, you get killed, they get some kill experience, then they take the objective, so they get the objective experience, then they take your farm, so you can't get that farm, and then they go back to their own farm. Instead of just giving the objective up, you've given them an objective, you've given them a KO, and you've given them pretty much all the farm on the map. So if your team goes down and dies, whatever, you can't control their decisions. But what you can do is you can quickly take all of the farm that's on your side of the map before the enemy does. And if you're playing a supporter or a defender, I'm sorry, this is going to be a rough game for you. So when you're playing from behind without an ult, you need to go and farm. You need to get that Unite move because you're not going to win a fight, or it's very unlikely you're going to win a fight when the enemy has that big resource of a Unite move and you don't. By the way, if you're learning something new or if you're getting some value out of this video, please do give it a like and consider being a subscriber to the channel. Come join the 20% of people who have subscribed and they get this free value from the channel and they're notified doing so. Anyway, let's get back to the guide. Now this next part is important because it varies from what your team will do. You have your Unite move and the enemy still has a level lead. It's time to close this. Don't ever be alone, even if you think it's the most correct play your team can make. I repeat, don't be alone. If there's a bottom Reggie and your team wants to score on the top lane, go with them and score on the top lane. If your team wants to push the bottom goal zone while the enemy is up and the objective is up, help them out. Because at this point, your power is in your numbers. All it takes is a KO or two for your team and you'll see the immediate value for the catch up on levels. When you see these opportunities for a KO, you and your team should be using your Unite moves when you have the numbers. If you're in a 4v2 or a 3v2, okay? Get the kills, get the assists. It's a lot easier to do this in numbers. Now, generally speaking, you have from about the 6-minute mark to the 3-minute 30 mark to do this. That's only a 2-minute 30 window. It's only a quarter of the game. It's at this time, generally the second objectives are up. Now, if you want to read more about the math of the catch-up experience and the modifiers, I've left a link in the description, thanks to our MathCord, who, in my opinion, are the most valuable members of our Pokemon Unite community. So if you read that and you get some value, be sure to visit their Discord and give a thank you to the people who have put all of this amazing resource together. Now, although things don't go too well, the game makes comebacks possible even in the last 2 minutes. It's double score time and you need to prepare for this. This is my advice. I've got 4 pieces of advice. Number 1, don't use your Unite move past the 3-minute 30 mark to ensure it's active for the final 2 minutes. Second thing, if you're using a focus band from the 3-minute 30 mark, don't engage in fights. You need that resource readily available for the final 2 minutes. My third tip would be, if the first goal zone is still active, you need to try and break this when the enemies are at the third rotation of the objective on the opposite side of the map. If you break this, it's going to help your team in the fight at the Rayquaza by removing their flux zone and the potential shielding they can get from that goal zone. And my tip number 4 is, do not score your 100 points at the 2 minutes ever. Be with your team and understand the role that you have. Now, this is when we need to engage in the Rayquaza fight. Again, I've got a couple of tips here. My first one is, never ever engage if your team isn't there. If you notice someone farming, don't engage. If you notice your teammate scoring, don't engage. You need to be patient. The only time you engage is when you notice the Rayquaza is getting ripped by the enemy team, which generally they will if they see 2 people off scoring, because they understand that if they're there, it's going to be a 5v3 team fight, so they want to rip that Rayquaza while they have the number advantage. Second thing is, understand your role. Everyone is near the Ray and you have got roles, so I'm going to talk through them. If you're a tank, you get vision, you initiate, but don't go too deep. You need to make sure that you're within the range of your backline. Your vision and your initiation is pointless if your backline isn't doing damage to the enemy. If you're playing support, you need to stay with your carry and do not let them die. You're providing some vision with the tank, and you're supporting the tank from afar when they initiate, making sure they don't die if they're going too deep. If you're playing the brawler role, this is similar to the tank, but be careful because you're going to die a little quicker. However, you've got the capability of killing something, maybe a carry, a lot easier than a tank would. If you're playing the assassin role, don't get seen. You need to engage on the enemy, carry in particular, when the fight has initiated. And if you're a ranged attacker, you need to stay with your tank. You need to make sure wherever your tank is, you have got your skills and your autos within the range of them. But you need to make sure you've got an escape plan ready, so don't be walking into a kill box. Another thing I would recommend when you're at that Rayquaza is, after the team fights happen, you need to know when to rip the objective, you need to know when to score, or you need to know when to retreat. Now, it's a tricky call, but you need to make decisive action because time is of the essence. 1 second will matter in these scenarios. Given if you're behind, I think you need to either score your 100 or rip the objective, because if you retreat to get that health back, you're giving the enemy time, which is generally, if they've got 2 or 3 dead, they need time. Time is their friend, right? Time is your enemy. So you need to make value out of that time. And my fourth thing would be, if you've secured the Ray, know if you can score or if you should just defend. If you need to score, but you're going to die, the enemy can counter push and score. So just be mindful. If you can get that score in, get the score in. But if you're going to die and not get the score in, it's best to just go and defend. And that will come with some experience when you're playing the game. Now, if you've done all of these things and you still lose the game, that's okay. You did what you could, and honestly, if you've done everything here, you've played really, really well. And that's the most important thing. I know it's frustrating, but the best you can do is reflect on your own plays rather than the result itself. Good luck on the ladder, guys, when you're grinding in the solo or the duo queue, and please be careful of the terrifying monster at the moment, which is the Mewtwo. Now let's jump into a game where I've applied some of these principles to come back in a game of Pokemon Unite. Now, evidently I'm using Tyranitar here, and Tyranitar is a Pokemon that comes online at level 9. So that's quite late into the game comparatively. Some Pokemon come online at level 5, some at level 4, some even at level 2. Right? Now, what I've done here is I've gone to the top lane because I can see them struggling a little bit, but we had a Mewtwo and a Comfey, so I thought we might have had it under control. We've done okay there. I've tried to pick up a kill. I've actually overcommitted there. I see I'm in a 3v1. I completely back out, but I know I can get the Zacian, and the rest of this here is I'm happy to give this up. Okay, I'm looking to do some pressure, but the moment I'm in danger, it's like back out of there, right? And that's okay. It puts you in a losing position, but it's better than dying. They get all their farm, but that's okay, right? You just go straight back to your jungle rotation, or if you are in the lane, you might take a bottom Baltoy like this Mewtwo is doing here. They've actually broken the top lane completely at the 8 minutes, so we're really behind, and they're actually pressuring our farm. So what we do here is we don't have the Unite move, so we need to farm up. Because remember, the enemy's not wanting to give up the free farm, so we have to pressure the farm that they don't want to give us for free, right? Which is the side and DD. So we have to be there, we have to be present, otherwise we're giving that up and we're compounding our loss. So evidently you can see here, we're in a losing position, right? We've lost the top lane. I'm still barely on track to hit level 9 by that first objective. Our upside is that we actually have got the bottom goal zone for now, but the enemy just looks like they've got an experience advantage, and so they're probably going to come down to that bottom lane looking pretty good. So my goal here is I'm not going to that bottom lane as a Pupitar. I'm going there as a Tyranitar. Okay, you are no good as a Pupitar at a team fight. You've got to come online. That's why you need that jungle experience. So all I'm doing here is doing a third jungle clear. This is why you need to be timely for your rotations of your buffs. And I'm just looking to get my level 9. Now, unfortunately here, the Mewtwo is actually taking the red buff off me. And honestly, it's a little frustrating, but there's other farm on the map, and that's okay, right? So he can take that buff, and I know I just need a little bit here, right? Which is fine, I just go and grab the little bit. It delays me by like 10 seconds or whatever. But, you know, maybe the Mewtwo needs a bit of experience as well. So, you know, red buff might be good on him as well. So we get that level 9, now we've got the Unite move, and we're in a position where we can now do some comeback stuff. Ideally, we've got Unite moves with our team, right? So we've got the Venusaur who has a Unite move, and I look to engage here because I figure I've got a Clefable who's maybe going to be trying to Moonlight me, but they get a score in, maybe they're stacking, right? And so we're in a bit of a tricky position here because we can't exactly rip. I don't want to go too deep on their goal zone, but ultimately it's a case of don't die. If we can secure the goal, the objective, we can secure the objective. But it looks like we're going to lose, so I've made the call to the Venusaur. I've said, hey, we need to back out. All right, otherwise we're going to die. We're going to give them objective. We're going to give them kills. We're going to give them farm. Right, let's just minimize it and just give them the objective at best. And if they want to push, like they're pushing as a team there, we're outnumbered, that's fine. Just go to the next place they would go if they want to steamroll, which is our farm. So we take our farm straight away, right? We don't want to muck around there because their team, if they're compounding their win, they're looking to take our farm off us. So that's where we go, right? We don't want to waste even a moment looking at them. I didn't even want to look at them. I just want to get my farm and focus on the next fight, where hopefully we've got a team to do that. Now with Tyranitar, you want to pop these Unite moves at, you know, a fairly key moment because you want to get a decent bit of value out of it. I can see I've got the Mewtwo and the Comfey in the mid. So I look to run, I go, hey, look, if they want to take a fight there, that's fine. I'm going to work with the team because we've got a 3v2. Our power's in the numbers. If we're going to outnumber them, we're going to win those fights, right? Now the Lapras has used the Unite move, so they've used a lot of resources to get out of that, which is fine for a non-objective. I get caught here. There's a couple Unite moves going off by the enemy. So they use quite a few resources to, you know, ace our team there, but that's fine. That means that we have got the resources for the next fight that we can follow up with, right? So they try to push our bottom tier. We get some catch up there, and honestly, at this stage, I feel like we're doing okay. The Mewtwo's got that top Regieleki, and I figure, look, we've got Unite moves. They probably don't. We could get this Regieleki in. I know they've got the jump pad, but we've got a Tyranitar Unite move. We've got double supporter, and we've also got a Venusaur with Solar Beam and the Unite move from the Venusaur. So I figured we can actually get this in, right? But I should have had some map awareness and seen that our Clefable wasn't with us, because that extra support would have really helped me get this over the line. At this point in the game, honestly, this is just a big throw play. So it's made our life a little bit tricky there. We've given the enemy, you know, the opportunity to get some catch up. We're probably better off just going through their farm. But here it's a case of, okay, let's farm. And the last bit of advice is, if there's an objective looking top, we want to break that bottom goal. So you can see that the entire enemy team's down bottom, and then the Regieleki spawns top. So all I want to do is get farm, and I want to look to score in their bottom goal, right? So I've pinged it on the map. I'm telling my team, hey, that's where I'm going to be heading, and I suggest you just maybe back out and don't give the enemies any kills. Because if we get that 50 score in and we take away their flux zone, if we're fighting from the bottom lane here, from the bottom side, it's mutual ground, right? They don't have an advantage of having the shielding and the flux zone, right? There's equal positioning ground if the fight gets dragged down to that bottom lane. So if you can, you only do it if it's free, right? The top objective was there. We had vision on the enemy, so we go in for the score. If you don't have vision on the enemy, you don't make that play. Now we get to the RayFight. I'm obviously the brawler, so I've got to go in and initiate with some of the help of my supporters. Unfortunately, I didn't really get a whole lot of help from the supporters, which is, that's fine. The Clefairy will put the body on the line, and the Comfey's been helping the Mewtwo out quite a bit, which is okay. We managed to get quite a few kills there. Unfortunately, it was only the Leafeon left. And we're in a position here where we need a score or we need a rip, right? So we take up a second fight here. We're hoping to get a pick. And one of their teammates, the Leafeon here, he overcommits. He gets himself in a tricky position. And then we're able to dive and do quite a bit of AoE damage on their team right here. Okay, we landed some big solar beams, some big skill moves there. And we ace their team, right? Now this is decision time. For me, I figured they've got 20-second respawn timers. We've got the mobility to get in, score 200 and win the game. My Mewtwo had a different idea. Now, honestly, in hindsight, I should have gone and helped the Mewtwo rip because we would have been on the same page. This game is way closer than it needs to be because we're losing by more than 100, right? It said you're really struggling. So we're losing by more than 100. So at the moment, we're still losing the game. And there's 10 seconds left, right? So I try and get a bit of money and go into the goal zone, and I'm very lucky that I managed to get this score off because the 68 points ends up getting us to win the game in the end. Super, super fortunate, but you can see applying the principles and playing from behind, we're able to get some work in and get the job done. Now, up on the screen, I've left my Discord handle. If you're interested in any coaching or looking to improve in the game, maybe looking to apply some of these guides in your game, feel free to shoot me a message and we can tee something up 100%. So if that's something you're interested in, please definitely consider that. Otherwise, if you want some more free value, click on one of these videos on the tile, on the screen, because all this stuff I'm putting on YouTube, I put a lot of effort into, and I'm hoping that you guys can improve by applying some of these principles. Have a fantastic day and good luck on that solo queue ladder.